Hi everyone, it's Chris, and I'm standing out in front of the really cool steam gnocchi that we have in our arboretum at the front gate. And today we are going to learn all about birds, from their beaks to their wings to their feet. And maybe we're going to also learn a few of their songs so that we can learn to identify them in our own backyards. We have a lot of birds here at the forest, and sometimes it's a little hard to identify them because there are so many different kinds. Did you guys know that in BC there are 583 species of birds? That's a lot. I don't think I can remember all of those. Can you? Today I'm gonna teach you some ways to identify some birds by identifying them by their beaks, their wings, and their feet, and sometimes by their calls, which might be the easiest way to do. As you guys know, birds kind of live in every single type of ecosystem that's on Earth. So some of them like to live in cities, some of them like to live in forests, some of them like to live by water, some of them like to live in the desert, and even some like to live in the Arctic. Brr. So first off, I'm going to teach you guys all about how to identify bird wings. There are 5 main types of bird wings that birds have, and one of them is called the elliptical wing. So what are elliptical wings good for? Well, these birds live in the forest, and there's a lot of trees in the forest. So their wings are actually specially designed to maneuver around trees. So they are very agile to just swoop through trees really easily. And their wings are also really good for a fast takeoff. So if they think that they're in danger, they can just flap their wings really fast and get out of danger really fast as well. What kind of birds that we see every day that have these wings? Robins have them, Steller jays have them, and thrushes, and all of those fun forest birds. So let me show you an example of an elliptical wing. I will take one of my specimens here, and this one is a orange-crowned warbler. And as you can see, his wings are really curved. And that is meant for maneuvering around trees. So most birds that you'll find in the forest, or any bird that has an elliptical wing, will have kind of a little curved wing. The next type of bird wing out there is called a high-speed wing. So you might think, which bird has a really high-speed wing? Maybe hummingbirds. But actually hummingbirds have their own whole category. So these usually belong to the family of ducks, some swifts, some terns, some swallows, and some sandpipers. And all of those like to live around water. So what are high-speed wings good for? Well, high-speed wings are exactly that. They are specially designed to maintain a high speed at all times in the air. So if you've ever seen a duck fly, or next time you see a duck fly, you should notice how fast their wings flap. It's very, very fast. So let me show you what a high-speed wing would look like. So this one is the wing of a mallard, so that is a type of duck. And most bird wings that are high-speed wings have this kind of straight and narrow wing, so that they can always maintain that high speed. If they had wings that were any bigger than this, it wouldn't be good, because then they would spend a lot of energy trying to take off into the air, and that's not what they want to achieve. They want to get in the air as fast as possible. So that's why they evolved to have a smaller and narrower and thin wing, so that they can take off into the air much faster. The next type of wing on our list is called a long soaring wing. Long soaring means that they will have really long and elongated wings meant for soaring. And these types of wings are usually from birds that do really long journeys across the land and across the sea. So the birds that migrate far and wide to get to their destination. So what are long soaring wings good for? So they are actually very long and narrow as well, just like the high-speed wings, but they evolved instead to catch more wind currents. So they will be slightly longer than the high-speed wings. So the birds that make really long journeys will need the air currents and the wind currents to help them along their journey, because they will spend so much energy trying to get from one place to the other, and that could be kilometers and kilometers and kilometers. So they will use the air as their advantage and help them along their way. So the birds that will have this type of wing, the long soaring wing, will be seagulls. I'm sure you're very familiar with seagulls, and also gannets and albatrosses, which have the longest wingspan of all the birds that live. All right, so let me show you an example of a long soaring wing. So I have two seagull wings here, and they are from the same species, but if you notice, they look a little different. So I want you guys to take about 10 seconds and try and figure out why these two look so different. And again, they do come from the same species. Did you guys figure it out? Well, one of them is an adult and the other one is a juvenile. So a juvenile kind of means like a teenager bird. Can you guys guess which one? So this one, the white one, is the adult bird. And this one is the juvenile bird. If you guessed it, congratulations, you are really smart. So another type of wing is called the high lift wing. And these wings are especially designed to catch hot pockets of air so that they can soar high up in the sky. Can you guys think of any examples of birds that like to soar all the time, high up in the sky? I can think of one, and those are eagles. Eagles are a prime example of birds that have a high lift wing. Other birds that might have this wing other than eagles might be great blue herons or herons in general, storks and cranes, and also hawks. So a lot of birds of prey. Most of these birds soar high up in the sky and rely on their really good eyesight so that they can catch their prey way down below. And I will show you an example of a high lift wing. So this wing is really, really large. Can you guys guess from which bird it came from? An eagle? Maybe. Actually, it's from a great blue heron. So herons have extremely long wingspans. It's almost as long as my arm. And the characteristic that is distinguishable from high lift wings is that most of these birds will have large slots on their primary feathers. So primary feathers are these ones right here, and they will have large slots in between so that they can catch those pockets of air so that they can fly up high in the sky. So the next time that you see an eagle or the next time you see a heron or a turkey vulture, you'll notice how slotted their wings are. And last but not least, we have one more category, and that one is called the hovering wing. Can you guys guess which bird that belongs to? It's the one I talked about earlier, which has its own category, and that is the hummingbird. Why is it called a hovering wing? Well, if you've ever seen a hummingbird before, they flap their wings so fast that it looks like they're just floating in the air, which is really amazing. So now I want to do an experiment with you guys. So I need everybody to get up, and I want you guys to stand nice and tall, and I want you guys to spread out your wings. So this is going to be an experiment as to how fast we can flap our wings. So one of the slowest birds out there is a crow. And a crow usually flaps their wings about 20 times every 10 seconds. So we will see if we are faster than a crow. So we are going to flap our wings for 10 seconds. And the catch is we cannot bend our elbows or our wrists. So our arms are going to stay nice and long, and we are going to flap them up and down like this. So no bending of the arms are not going like this. We're going to keep them nice and straight. Are you guys ready? Let's see if we're faster than a crow. All right, 1, 2, 3, go. Oh man, are you guys exhausted? That was really exhausting. How did you guys do? Were you guys faster than a crow? I don't think I was. Are you guys ready for one more experiment? This one's gonna be really, really fun. So for this one, we are going to measure our wingspan from one tip to the other. So you guys will need to stand nice and tall. You're gonna have to spread out your wings nice and long and wide. And you're gonna ask a parent or a guardian to help you measure your wingspan. So you will need to find some kind of tape measure that you have at home, and you are going to measure yourself from one end to the other. So I will show you exactly which bird you are in the next slides. All right, that was fun. So now that we did wings, we are going to move on to bird beaks. So how do we identify birds from their beaks? Most beaks have evolved to help a bird eat whatever they like to eat. So some of them specialize in eating insects, some of them like to eat seeds, some of them eat fish, some of them eat meat. The shape of their beak also dictates the way they make their calls and songs. There are so many different types of beaks out there, but I'm going to show you the ones that are most common. So the first beak, we have generalist beaks, and those usually belong to crows, ravens, and jays. We have birds that have an insect catching beak, and those birds would be chickadees, nuthatches, sparrows, warblers, and wrens. We also have birds that have a beak for grain eating, and those would be finches, cardinals, grosbeaks, and crossbills. We have birds that are evolved to have a chiseling beak, and those would be woodpeckers and sapsuckers. We have birds that have a dip netting or a scooping beak, and those belong to pelicans. We have birds that like to feed on nectar, and they have sipping beaks, and those would be hummingbirds. We also have birds that like to eat lots of meat, so our raptor birds, they have a tearing beak. So birds like eagles, hawks, and owls. We have birds that specialize in aerial fishing, and they have their own special beak, and those would be from kingfishers. We also have birds that have beaks for pursuit fishing, and those would be birds like ducks, mergansers, grebes, and loons. We also have birds that scavenge a lot. So scavenging beaks would be from turkey vultures. We have birds that have striking beaks, and those would be from herons. And last but not least, we have birds that have a probing beak, and those belong to oyster catchers and sandpipers. Whoa, that's a lot of types of beaks. Did you guys get all of that? There's even some that I didn't even mention. So most of these beaks belong to the birds that we have here in British Columbia. There's a lot of birds, like tropical birds, that also have their own different types of beaks. All right, so we talked about beaks. So now I will show you some example of these beaks from the samples that I have right over here. So this one is a European starling. And starlings like to eat seeds and insects. So if you can see, their beak is nice and elongated, good enough to crack some seeds and also to eat some insects. Another type of beak that we have is the generalist beak, which is a bird that kind of eats everything out there. So it might eat trash, it might eat some seeds, it might eat some meat if it can find some, it might eat some insects as well. So they like to eat whatever's out there. So this one is a Steller jay, and they have generalist beaks. So a beak that is not too chunky, So this one is pretty thick, but not too thick. So it can still crack some seeds. It can eat and pick through some garbage if it wants to. It can also eat insects. And the last sample I'm going to show you is this guy over here. And this is a Cooper's hawk. So a bird of prey. And you will notice that this hawk has a tearing beak, which means that it is carnivorous and eats a lot of meat. So they will have a hooked beak to tear the meat apart. Alright, so now we are going to talk about some feet. So birds live in different ecosystems, which means that their feet need to adapt to whatever environment that they live in. So they don't always have the same feet. So for example, birds that live in water will have webbed feet. And the birds that are usually raptors, so the ones that eat meat, will have their own kind of feet. And they are very curved and they have really long nails. So let me show you some examples. So this guy over here is from a Goldeneye species, which is in the duck family. And ducks like to live in water, or they like to spend their time in water. So this one is a webbed foot. And you can see that they have 3 toes and they have some webbing in between. And that is to help them swim and also catch their prey in the water. And this one is from a barred owl. Barred owls eat meat, so they are a raptor. They are carnivorous. So they have their own special kind of feet, and if you can tell, they have really long claws. And that is to grab their prey in mid-air. So they will swoop down and catch their prey with their feet. So that's why they need such long nails. All right, we did pretty good. So now we talked about wings, we talked about their beaks, we talked about their feet. So now it's time to learn how to identify some birds by their song or their calls. So we are gonna play a small game, and the game will go as follows. I will play a bird song, and I will give you 3 options of which bird that might be. So you guys will have to listen very carefully and use your instincts to try and identify which bird that came from. So the birds that we're going to identify are some common backyard birds. So we are going to try and learn 6 different songs today. Are you guys ready to start? All right, here we go. All right, I hope you guys had fun listening to my bird lesson. Meet you next week when we talk all about pollinators, so bees and butterflies. Bye!